Hey everyone, welcome to Dave's Bonsai. On today's episode, the plant room, it's full and I need to make a little space for a couple of future projects. So it's time to repot. So I took some footage of the plant room just moments ago. Let's go to that real quick. And there's plants everywhere. So my working table has the trees that I'm going to repot, the Premnas. I've got my seedlings on the tray with the heat map that we have. Of course, I also have the trees that are on the bench right now near the window and the forest of new cuttings that's on the fish tank. Not to mention the closet greenhouse area where I have that plastic. It's not been closed yet this year because the humidity's been so high, and I have trees on the whole top shelf. The bottom shelf is empty because right here in front of me now I have some Premnas. So the Premnas that are in the greenhouse type area where I have the plastic on those shelves, those are growing faster than the Premnas that are out there with that light. The lights are a little bit higher from the plants there, even though they do have some north window exposure as well, light from the north window. These seem to be doing the best. And I'm going to put them into some smaller pots. So I'm going to put them into a couple of pots maybe like this. I've got one of my oval pots. These are going to be good. And then I might put one of them in one of my bigger pots here. We'll see how they come out of the pots. And I have this old juniper that didn't make it this year. I could clean that up as well and get something in there. Here's another oval, but maybe that's a little bit too big. So we probably won't put it in there. So we're going to take these Premnas and we're going to see what they're all about. So I'm super excited to do some work. Now, part of the reason why we're doing this work is to make some room for a project that I'm going to have. Recently on the show, I gave you the update of the grape wood pot that I made with the Flex Seal black inside. And I want to put some of the cuttings in here, I think. I was going to maybe put some Spanish moss or Irish moss or something more plant-like in here. But I want to put some young bonsai cuttings in here because I just like growing the little bonsai in some odd, unique pots. And they'll do just as good in here as they will where they are there. And it'll just be fun to have something in my newly created pot. So we're going to do that eventually. Now, if I keep things on this table back here, I don't have any lights over here per se, any grow lights. So I could add more grow lights, but let's make some more room where I've got all the grow lights. And that's why we're going to go ahead and do some repotting, because I can have pots like this instead of big pots like this. The other reason, of course, that I want to do some work is because I really want to work on some trees. It's been over a week since I worked on a tree. It is the 1st of December today, so meteorological winter starts today. Though we don't do a lot of repotting for tropical plants in the wintertime, as I've repeated on the show many times, in my plant room where it's 78 degrees right now and the humidity is close to 60%, we have really good conditions with good light, good warmth, good humidity. These are going to heal up just fine. And they're growing like weeds in the plant room. Lucky tree number 1, we're going to dig into this guy. So this is one of the stumps from the air layers we did. And you can't even see the stump. It's right there. You can see it a little bit there. And it is been an absolute phenomenal grower here in the plant room. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to dig into this guy and we're going to see what we have. I mentioned this in the last Premna that I repotted, that this comes from Weigert's Nursery down in Florida. We mix up our trees for the Minnesota Bonsai Society from year to year, or every couple of years we change it up a little bit. And this year we went with the Premnas and the Melinas for the first time in a while, maybe ever for the Premna. I think we've had Premna and Melina before though. So the soil down there that they're using, it has a lot of this pine bark. You see a lot of big chips of pine bark in here, a lot of that organic material. There's also kind of more of a sandy soil. It's got kind of a sandy grit to it. Little less black dirty and a little more sand. Therefore it dries out a little bit faster, so when you get the trees from down there, at least these tropicals that we've had, you got to be careful that they don't dry out too fast. So watering them, you got to be a little bit more careful. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to peel back the layer of soil here at the top. Now, here's one thing that I forgot about this tree. I think when we made this air layer, I stuck a cutting in the ground. And there's our cutting. So we have another cutting we can put into one of these small pots, or maybe even in one of these solo pots, and just start a bonsai right away from this cutting. We'll see how that looks in just a moment. There we go. So this is a cutting from probably late summer. We've got about an inch of growth, about an inch plus high and an inch out here. We have some roots there that are doing well. We got some nice green leaves. We can put this in some soil and we can have a bonsai in a little tiny pot as well. So I'll have to see what I have. Oh, you know what? I have this little pot right here. We can start a bonsai right there. Nice ceramic pot. We'll put that in that one right there. So very nice, all of these trees. So the Premna, if you're interested, the Premna is certainly been proven to be a really good rooter from cutting. So if you want to try a tree that's going to respond well to repots, you can bare root these when you repot them really, really successfully. The cutting success I've had so far has been darn near close to 100%. If I put a cutting into some soil, I get roots. Now, I put that cutting right into this soil, so it's the soil it was growing from to begin with. Again, a kind of a sandy-based soil with a lot of pine bark in there for some organic material, and it obviously got some roots there. I've also put some of the Premna cuttings into pots like right here. So these are all cuttings from this year as well, and those two are doing really, really good. This one is a little bit sparse right here, but I got some little tiny growth down here, and these are still alive. Those are getting plenty of roots too in my recycled bonsai soil. So I do sift my recycled soil, and I wash it up oftentimes, get it a little bit cleaner. But I also like using the recycled soil for well, the benefits of having some good healthy bacteria in the soil. Instead of using absolute fresh, clean, sterile soil, I believe it's really nice to have a little bit of that organic material, that bacteria from the broken down pot from where it was growing before, and keep some of that soil in there. So sometimes I'll mix 25, maybe 35, 40% of old soil into some new soil. So I don't have any old soil right here. Well, some of this right here is some recycled stuff right here. I can mix that with the new stuff, and it'll have some hopefully some good bacteria in it. It's kind of like when you set up a fish tank, right? I've mentioned that before too. When you set up a fish tank, you don't want to put the fish in the first 24, 48 hours. You want that to be churning through a filter, and you want to make sure that some bacteria starts to form. You want some good healthy bacteria so those fish will be able to survive in some good healthy conditions. Stark water from your tap is not going to be the best answer. So we have a fair amount of roots on this guy right here. And again, it's a lot of roots feeding what? Feeding this right now, because we had chopped this thing off right there, and there was one branch over there that was still alive. So we can put this in the ground kind of like this. And we've got this growth right here. This looks like a sucker here. Let's take off my glasses and take a closer look. I can't really tell if that would come loose and be another tree to plant. And I think it's just part of this tree. There is another tree, looked like that was cut right here, or a root. Let's take that off. Look at that. Okay, that went in my mouth right there. That was a big root. So we got some big roots in here, some swirling around roots. We're going to want to cut some of those off so they don't create any damage down the road. Cut things off. So I cut that big root that was kind of swirling around. Pull that off. Look at that, growing all over the place. Oop, that made that come apart. So we got some nice roots down here, but of course the trunk doesn't look so great because we chopped it off, because the critters chewed all the way around this tree. So we did an air layer up here, and there was one branch here that was still surviving, so we decided to keep it and see what we could do. Now there's a little tiny tree trying to grow right in there, a little trunk right there. We're going to go ahead and cut that off because we don't want that growth. So that was super small and little. Look at that growth. That's over a foot of growth. So we got this root out here now. I'm not sure where it goes. And we still have this sucker right out here. Look at that sucker right there. It's completely a couple inches from the The current branch is close to the original trunk though, the trunk line. If I get rid of some more dirt, see if I can see if it can be separated. The root has hardened off down here, or the trunk of the tree, if that was a new tree growing up, that has a nice little hardened off section there. But I think it's growing right into the heart of this tree. There were two trunks on this tree. If you can see right there, we've got a trunk right here and a trunk right there. They kind of grew over each other, which is kind of cool. And as I cut into that one, there's still some life into that piece. This trunk up here on your left, my right, is growing over this trunk. So it's like almost like instead of a root over rock, it's a root over trunk. I don't know what's going to happen with that. Again, this has some really fun roots on here. I just don't know what we're going to keep. I'm going to cut this one right here off. This one that's going up and around didn't have a lot of fine feeder roots on that, so that's probably okay. I'm going to cut this root off. Hard for you to see there, but there's a root between the new growth and this tree that I think I'm trying to save here. And that takes out kind of a big chunk there. Trying to get rid of this trunk that the tree is going over. Trying to cut this trunk off down here. Maybe we can pry these two out. I don't know that this big chunky root is going to do us much good with all the growth on the left side. You're right now, my left. So yeah, not very many little feeder roots on there. So some of these are just kind of breaking off now. So it's hard to tell. This kind of did fuse into one main trunk. Down lower it looks like. So someday if I want to see a nice radial root pattern, I'll have to cut some roots off. We got a kind of a tap root section right here, chunky one. Take that off. Oh, see, that's now bending here from this side over here. Oh yeah, it curls way around. It curled over back on itself. Kind of a cool little wiggly root there. So again, I know these root really, really well, and so I'm not too nervous about getting down here to the basics of this tree. So cut some of these shorter. So I think we're going to put it in one of these small pots here. And if I can angle it this way just a little bit, this tree will work towards growing up, and this one could be off to the side, almost like a twin tree. And we'll see what happens later with this tree. How is it going to grow? How is it going to react? Where are the main roots going to grow? I don't think we're going to have this branch growing back at the new growth, or this one. So let's cut that off. And we have these two trees. So we get all this branching stuff here. We'll figure that out. Actually, I think what I'll do is I'll see if I can figure out some of the tree growth now. This is so thick in here. If you can see in there, all of those branches, super thick. I don't even know which way they're growing. I'm going to cut this bottom one off. I'll leave this one, but I'm going to cut it shorter. I'll leave this one, but I'll cut it shorter. Same with this one. All of these are just going to be shorter. And then we're going to pick the trees, the branches that we want to support. Massive, massive growth under here. All of that thick, thick growth is super cool to see. We're going to cut this shorter, the whole tree. right there. Got this new shoot here that's growing in a really bizarre direction. Cut that off. And now as we put this in a pot this way, this could become the tree. This could probably be the strongest contender for the tree because the tree's going this way and then up right here. And this one could also be a contender. So we'll leave those two there. We'll just go one shorter there and one shorter here and one shorter there. We're just going to leave all of that right now to do its thing. There are so many thick branches down here, or leaves down here. Some of these this thickness is meaning there's like two things growing out in one area. We don't want the two branches growing out, so I'm just kind of thinning it out a little bit. Super thick in there still. So we'll just leave all that growth on there. We'll just leave that kind of three-way. There's one back here too in three directions there. And we got this new one here. And we'll just put this in the pot. And we just conserved it down to 1/4 of its size. We'll put some soil in there and we'll have a new bonsai pot with a bonsai tree in it. So we're gonna grab some soil from the bottom layer here. Get a little bit thicker soil. There we go. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and, so I've got a bit of a chunky tree here. We are gonna twist the angle a little bit. So we have two trees, one from that wound and one from the new sucker. This barrel that I'm taking from has 1/3 akadama, 1/3 pumice, and 1/3 lava rock. I'm happy with this mixture with most of my trees. If I want more moisture, I'm adding more akadama or pumice, less lava rock, more lava rock for more airflow and aeration. Now we're having a difficult time getting akadama pretty much nationwide, so we got some of that hopefully coming in the first of the year. Some of the shipments have been held up due to the shipping crisis that we've had this late summer and fall. Okay, so there wasn't a lot of heavy roots down there, so just a little bit of tamping down the soil. And then we have the sucker growing here, which could be a whole new bonsai if it roots out real nice. Because if you can see, this is like a 1/2 inch away from the main root structure. So if I get roots growing all the way around, we could cut off and separate this maybe after this first new growth. This I can cut up and trim up a little bit more back here now. There. And then this becomes this new main tree here. And again, if this becomes a leader, or this becomes a leader, or this becomes a leader, it'll have some movement and start to hopefully grow up. This one, probably cut that one off, huh? I think we probably don't need that one, do we? And there's some stuff down here that's really thick. Maybe in retrospect we cut that off, huh? I gotta see up close. Have to take my glasses off all the time for this now. Yeah, you know, that section is just going straight down. I didn't bring the tree up as high as I wanted to, but I think I'm just gonna cut this section off. And hope those other 3 branches take off. There we go. So we took this real chunky little section off. Now we can clean up this wound just a little bit here. Leave a little bit for potential dieback. And then we have 3 branches that could take off into this tree. So this tree could take off and grow up here more. We could tilt it even more the next time we plant it, but then we have this new one, this sucker, doing some great things. We need some water in this, and we are ready to call this one repotted. Fantastic. And we'll go ahead and lift that up and see that it's draining. Oh, look at that. There we have tree number 1. So we have the cutting from an air layer. This was the stump that was left. We had one branch on, we let it grow. It started to grow like crazy. We had all kinds of length. We cut them all back. We left 3 branches now. This might become the new tree. This could become the new tree, or this one. This one's leaning a little bit, but maybe we can get some more growth. We can maybe encourage it to grow up by cutting it one more time, directional pruning. Any of these could take off and be the new tree. Plus we have a nice sucker up here that's got 3 sets of leaves. And so we can see what'll happen with this over the course of the next several months down here in the plant room. So there is the first Premna repotted. There's the potential front at the moment, or if we hide the scar a little bit more, this could become the front of this tree, and who knows what that's going to be down the road. I almost forgot the little cutting. So here we have this little bitty pot. Now we're gonna go ahead and put some soil down. We got the drainage screen on there. And this is just gonna sit in here. We'll probably plant this at a little bit of an angle for the hopes that it gives us a little bit of shape. So obviously running through super strong here. Now the water is getting nice and clear. And there we have another potential bonsai. A little stick in a pot, super cute and ready to go. Let's put this on the shelf as well. I'm really curious to see what's inside tree number 2, because we put all the sphagnum moss on here and we have this critter that really did a number on this thing, so we're gonna have to see. So we're gonna take this one out of the pot now, and we're gonna go ahead and see what we got for tree number 2. I have no idea. I'm sure there's gonna be lots of roots in the sphagnum moss, or potential of some, but that came off pretty quick and easy, so that's good. We're gonna save that. Save that off to the side. Oh, it just calloused up, everybody. Look at that. So we had no roots that came out, but we have all this callousing right here. And there's a couple of little tiny roots here. Looks like there's some little tiny roots here, but there's this callousing up of this tree. So we're gonna go ahead and we're just gonna get rid of the rest of the soil. We're gonna see what we have to work with. So I didn't get a lot of like aerial roots from that sphagnum moss, but the tree itself seemed to have calloused off. There's plenty of roots down below, it looks like, or there are roots down below. This looks like it could be a candidate for a root over rock if we don't get rid of that big root. Someone wrote in, made a comment on one of the Premnas that had recently, and asked if I'd consider putting a root over rocks. I had that one root I was going to maybe cut off that was going to the side like this one. I mean, look at this root. It comes over here and it shoots this tree like that branch right there. It's kind of an odd shaped tree, right? So absolutely, we could put this or that other tree in the future over a rock. And since we're taking this now and exploring here, we can maybe put this one over a rock. That could be kind of fun. Okay, we've got this one pretty much bare rooted, and it does look like a candidate for a root over rock because there's so much gap in here in air. Now there's a lot of roots in there, but if we could sneak a rock in there somewhere, that could be a really interesting looking tree. Let me grab a couple of small rocks I have nearby, and we'll give this a first little glimpse of maybe a root over rock. So I have some bigger rocks here, and I don't know. So this root under here is probably going to have to go for me to fit anything in here. I got a side root growing here. Don't really need. And this one is curling in there. And so you see how I've made that open area there now? Can we slide a rock in there? And just make this into a root over rock. So it has the potential. There's a little bit of that crack right there that makes it look not as natural. So I would need a little bit more of a curved rock. So can I put this curved rock in here? have that fill some of that space a little more. Oop, this one just cracked. I was just out with a friend last night from the Minnesota Bonsai Society, and he showed me a picture. He brought me a couple of books, and he showed me a picture that he took out in the wild of a tree growing over a rock, and it looked something just like this, where there's a root on this side and a root on that side, and it completely smothered the rock, and it looked completely natural at the point that it was at. So this is very interesting right here. If I could get this to stay here, you know, and why would this tree have grown this way? We don't know, but this root wants to kind of hug the rock on this side right there, that great big root, which has stuff down here, but it's real long. The other thing I could do is maybe cut that root off. Maybe I can put this little one down here. If it's in the soil like this, like right there. Did the tree grow over that rock like that, and why? Now look at it from this side. It's kind of interesting if that rock could be shown later on, even if that's at a little bit of an angle. What if I did that with this one? What if it's planted like that? And this root is coming back in a weird way. Let's take that one completely out. But now we have some root going down here, root going down this rock here. We could cut this one off right here. And this rock could be in the ground right here. You know, that's kind of fun. And then the root in the back you don't care about as much, but that keeps the tree alive. Let's try that. Let's try that. So that might require me to use one of my bigger pots that I wasn't going to maybe use. So let's see if it would fit in a pot like this. Yeah. How about that? Ooh, did I break that one off? I did. Gotta be careful. This one's just shooting up though. We don't really want that one anyway. So how about that? How about that rock structure right there? So it fits nice on the rock, but then now this part of the tree, maybe this part of the tree isn't as likable at the moment, but I like that. I have a little bit of soil in the pot, and I have the tree sitting right over here ready to go. I just want to make sure all these roots can be buried enough. And then we'll put sphagnum moss right back on here to promote the health of these roots going down lower. So while I work on this a little bit, I want to show you a picture that I took several years ago up in the North Shore of Minnesota, and it's one of my inspirations for doing roots over rock, and this tree is just on a big boulder. Okay, so we're back, and I think this top root has to go. It's super big. It's kind of taken our eye away from this beautiful rock that we now have. And then this has this growth right here. I'm going to take that one off too right now. Let's get rid of that. Now everything else is going to have to grow down low and we'll just keep everything angled down low. And let's get some more soil in there. So the picture of that tree up on the North Shore, one of my favorite actual tree over actual rocks from the North Shore, the Superior Hiking Trail. If you're ever in northern Minnesota and you head up towards the Duluth area, and north of Duluth, the Superior Hiking Trail goes for 170 miles in all, I believe, or 70 miles in all. I'd have to check my stats on that. I think it's 70 miles. And, you know, it could be 170 miles of trails from the northern border with Canada down into Duluth. So we've got this now in this bigger pot. Remember, I had all the sphagnum moss, so I had some calluses forming on the one part of the tree. We cut off a fair amount of roots. I cut off the big top ones here. But we got this on a rock now. And look at that right there. This hugging over this way down towards the rock. This is going down this way. And then this rock in the back is going down this side of the rock. So it grew right over the rock. Over time, if this all swells, this could actually, you know, maybe grow into that rock down the road. So we'll tamp this down just a little bit more and we'll give it a good watering. And then we're going to do some cuts on this tree because I think I see some things I can maybe do. So kind of exciting. I didn't expect to do a root over rock today, but every time I have the chance, boy, I get super excited. And then of course, I want to see it like right now. So I want to see this in 2 years, like tomorrow, to see what it's going to look like. I have a Chinese elm that's ready for a repot in the spring. That'll be 2 years with the root over rock. It'll be 4 years old over rock, 2 years since my last repot. And I'm curious to see what it's going to look like over that rock. So now I want to keep some of these roots on the surface alive. There's a couple of questionable ones here. So I will put some of this sphagnum moss back on. But let's go ahead and give this a watering. So lots of water to get this thing really feeling good. It's warm in the plant room. We're still at 77 degrees. There, we got some water shaking out of there. All right, there'll be some residual water on my spin table, but I don't mind about that. Now the rock has a little bit of a glisten to it. That's super fun. So I got this exposed root right there. So we're gonna put a little sphagnum moss on there after we're done styling the tree. So here's my thought, everybody. If this is the front of the tree, this is an eyesore, and this one swoops back up and around. So why don't we just cut that whole branch right off that's facing right at us. So we're gonna go ahead and do that right now. I'm gonna cut it right here first. Whoa, yeah. Now that was a big chunk of the tree, everybody. I don't like the trunk so being gnarled up, so I can go ahead and do this, and I can make this into another cutting if I want to do that. We make this part a little less long, and we can go ahead and put this into some soil, and this will probably root as well alongside these other rootings, or other cuttings I should say. Okay. So now we can see this tree that's trying to cling on to life from the critters. There's some gnarled up wood. This we have to clean up though, huh? So let's clean up this stump right now. And we're gonna go back pretty severe in this one, because in the end, if the branch that's growing from it does not survive, we'll be okay. Oops, I pulled that one, tugged it a little bit too hard there. All right, so that's a pretty big scar right now. We have a lot of tree behind it that wants to survive, and so I think we'll be okay. I'm gonna get my root scar cleaned up right there. All right, so big scar right there, but hopefully that will heal. But look, I have this branch growing right back here, and this is growing off to the side here. You know what? We're just going to cut it all off, everybody. I don't think these two branches are going to do a whole lot except for create confusion with what's behind it. So I think we just cut the whole thing off. Like that. And then we go ahead and we just make this one big scar. And over time, We'll see how the Premna reacts and how it heals that scar. Okay. And we may even get some new growth off of this cut point now. We could get a little bit of a branch growing right there and there. And again, we're going to cover this all right here with some sphagnum moss to protect it this first year of growth here, since we did such major stuff. So let's go ahead and do some of that. So I have some sphagnum moss that we had on here from the summertime, and we're just going to go ahead and I don't have it graded, so I'm just going to break it apart into some finer parts. It's a little bit wet from the last time I watered the tree. And this will be what will keep this super nice and moist on top of these roots here. I don't need any on the rock side per se. And then this is going to be protected from getting overly dry because of the sphagnum moss. So I think that's enough sphagnum moss. And so let me take a peek at the tree. So now we have this fun curly swirly tree with what was cut off over here and some new growth down there. We don't want that growth. We're probably going to cut this scar back a little bit too. Let that heal some more. And the tree wants to grow up this way. We have this old scar here, but this new branch. So we want the new branch to really be the leader. So I'm going to cut that back. Now it has this branch over here, so I'm just going to cut that right off. So now we have this swirl around here, and this branch kind of covers that scar from that view. This right here could become the whole new leader of this tree, and we could cut this whole thing back here off if we decided to do that someday. This one's growing into our face, so we take that off. I'm just going to cut that one shorter, and who knows, well, let's see what this does here for our tree. Little growth down here that I don't need on the inside curve here. I don't see the need for this bottom one down here either. That's just going to maybe make some bulges later on. So now we have this fun, really curved tree growing over a rock, and who knows what's going to happen up top down the road. We're either going to keep this big tree here and get rid of this small branch, or maybe we get rid of this whole branch and make these two become the new tree, because it'll be hidden back here, the big scar, and this could become thick, this could become thick, and we have a twin trunk that grows from this gnarly root structure on the rock, however that developed because of nature. So the only thing else I'll do, I think, is I think I'll get rid of this right here as well. Kind of coming towards the camera. We'll clean that up. We'll shorten this up. And we'll shorten this up. And we'll call it a day with tree number 2. Over rock. We've got a root over rock that'll be exposed. Maybe in the summertime we'll take the sphagnum moss off, and if it's growing really well and healthy, we'll be able to get rid of that. So there is tree number 2.